Hello, I'm Carolyn Holzman, and this is Confessions of an SEO. My weekly confessions run 15 minutes, give or take, and I will say season 6 is probably going to be truly a breakout, but don't blame me if you can't unhear some of this because we're in new territory, and I will tell you why. Welcome to Season 6, Episode 15 of Confessions of an SEO. And I have what is probably a bit of a shocking statement, even to me, to make concerning my indexation research project that began in early fall 2021. We are well into, coming pretty close up on 5 years, but I'm going to have to tell you this, and that is the party is over. That particular facet of the research project, as I now see it, has completed its mission. One in which it sprang out of, I guess what we have to concede now is the legacy SEO era, right? We're not in Kansas anymore. And in fact, I may have overstayed my welcome on that subject because at the time we were targeting, when I started it, we were targeting keywords and building backlinks, using hidden divs to inject more relevancy into rendered DOMs for the Googlebot. And we took that skill to the bank until it all stopped. And I'm talking about the March 2024 core update when Google stopped treating helpful content as a separate filter and permanently integrated it and all its makings into the core algorithm. Now, this is where I am right now. Helpful content has become the foundational baseline for every ranking calculation moving forward since then. Only in hindsight can we see this for what it was, and there would have been no way for many to know unless you read my helpful content analysis and realized it was a topical measurement. But that specific date was when the Google machine stopped looking for keywords on a page and started evaluating the underlying entity node. That specific update marked the definitive end of keyword SEO and the birth of what I'm calling entity core SEO. And what I mean by entity core SEO, I'm describing a structural reality that at the core of the search engine is now an entity graph. My work right now, it's got a new name, Entity Core Research. So with a new name, it's in line with what I've shared that we're way past just looking at the indexed portion of the internet now. And just 2 episodes back, I talked about it being, we were at like the next evolution of indexing. It's no longer a win to be indexed. Much like the infomercial on the Ginsu knives, you think you know everything, but wait, there's more in this AI marketing field. And this is what I had to, why I had to respond to the Search Off the Record podcast to respond to it on Confessions last week. I called it the parsing of the HTML lesson with Gary and Martin from Google. Now, as part of the Vizx leadership and development team, I'm sharing that we've decided to build a way to sort of suck all the wisdom out of the server log so that you can know if your website content is qualified as determined by Google to get cited in Gemini. Likely that's going to be a standalone web interface in which you can connect to a Google Drive or an S3 bucket and confirm whether your content is, quote, tall enough to ride the Gemini AI ride, unquote. All right, that's not technical, but it's kind of fun, right? So this particular audit through your logs, this doesn't look at visitors. It looks at Gemini's energy expenditure. How much are they spending on crawling your content? And you thought I was going to say bots. Now, the resulting mechanical noise audit, that's what I'm calling it, tells us exactly if content has crossed, let's say from the time you published it, has crossed into being eligible for Gemini's RAG retrieval, or if your content is paying a compute tax that will get you excluded from ever being cited in Gemini. And if you think I'm talking a lot about money, you noticed, and you're right. As this research continues, we may be able to expand confirmation with some of the other LLMs or discover even further stages of Gemini information retrieval. So much of the time, I hear people, and I know myself, when you don't know, you do your best, right? Much of the time we refer to AI as if it's a monolith, that in the case of what we're working on in the marketing AI, if you get in one, you get in all. And if you're not in one, you're not in all. And that's simply not true. It's not that the AIs are stupid. It's just that each of them uses a different measurement stick. Now, the test to see if our content even passes through this front door of Gemini, while it's an easy test, it's also an easy test to fail. In fact, my former favorite SEO feature, hidden divs, are poison when it comes to making it through that door. And it is indeed this issue that brought me back to the realization that the indexation research method for confirming first and second crawls, well, that's built on using hidden divs to drive this test. And it wasn't at the beginning, but I can see it sure has been for a while. But hidden divs aren't the only way to fail that test. If you don't know what hidden divs are, that's an HTML tactic that, to all extents and purposes, decouples deployment, like what do the sites visually look like, from their on-page optimization. That is the conversation between the site and a search engine. So let's say with clients who hate certain words being used on their page, but words that need to be on the page, it is in that very no man's land that hidden divs facilitate. And so we would include a hidden div coded not to be read by web readers, which be those that speak what they see on the page, for people who have bad or no eyesight. And also we said don't include anything in here in snippets. And the snippets are like little pieces of the page that might get inserted into, let's say, a results page when that page that it's on is part of the organic results of that search. But the crawlers saw it and indexed it. And the on-page relevancy scores would jump up. And because at the time results were pretty much organized by keyword density, our pages would jump up. But now, and this is not because it's bad or naughty. If you have features in your content for whatever reason that ultimately interfere with the easy retrieval of that page's content for an LLM, that's the poison. When we have those things in our code, the price for that LLM to crawl that page is assessed, and most of the time, it decides the juice ain't worth the squeeze. And did I mention how easy this test is to get wrong? And yes, there are still professional SEOs not just doing hidden divs themselves, but they're teaching others to use them. And I myself, not too long ago, was going to be a part of an agency in which this would have been done globally on sites. So we could optimize a site of any size within days and maintain it. And in hindsight, I'm glad I jumped out of that in 2023. Now, there's a lot of well-meaning software tools that inject features onto pages intended to increase relevancy or maybe even some other beneficial result, because it really doesn't matter the purpose or the reasoning why. It's kind of like if it's there, that's a problem. And when it's there, you've made the content too expensive for Gemini to want to crawl. And oh, sure, you may get it indexed, but that's kind of the end of the road. In last week's episode, at the end, I referenced we were headed for the compute tax conversation. Well, here we are. So what is a compute tax? Basically, the energy expenditure required for an LLM to parse and understand a site's structure before extracting its meaning. And I often refer to it as mechanical noise. Whatever's causing that noise is injecting it into that semantic signal, the meaning signal. So the noise corrupts the signal, just like it does in the other parts of the world. And it makes it more expensive for LLMs, in this case Gemini, to know what's on that page and figure out how to trust a signal that has so much noise in it. So your visual DOM and the redundant scripts, these are taxing the machine's ability and desire to learn from your content. So that's what I mean when I say Google/Gemini. They aren't just indexing, they're energy auditing. High compute sites are liabilities. They are not assets to an LLM. And frankly, they are not to you either. And so here's a current fallacy that RAG, this is for Retrieval Augmented Generation. RAG as an AI, framework that'll work. And this is within more than one LLM model. And they fetch relevant data from external sources before generating a response. And because remember, they have been trained on other documents. And those documents are part of the LLM, so the cost for those documents has already been incurred. And they can use what they know. So you see how they have this sort of balancing, should I or shouldn't I? And a lot of SEOs are celebrating temporary citations in AI overviews. That's what those are. The fact that these citations don't last very long is often characterized as an LLM's failure. But here's a reality check. That citation is a high-cost RAG extraction. It is temporary because it's RAG. Now, what we truly want to become is part of the model's permanent logic, not just a transient link. That is why you don't want your site to, in a way, charge both you and the LLM this tax. A high compute tax guarantees your content will eventually be purged from the RAG bucket to save time. And here's the thing, the way out of this mess is to silence the noise. The quickest way I found to silence the noise while sharpening the semantic signal is using VizX technology. Yep, I'm going there. In the most basic of terms, I've discovered the role of VizX by its content recommendations is it serves as a diagnostic for that height check. By building the roadmap to your topical vortex, you're making your site profitable for the LLM to remember. Did you get that? As an industry, we need to stop aiming for the average answer. We're fighting each other over scraps and coming up with tools and techniques that will keep our content and that of our clients' content from ever getting to ride the ride. And is that what we want? When the voices in our industry tell us to imitate what we find in the results of, say, Gemini, let's do so considering that 99.99% of all sites are noisy and expensive. They are telling people to be the same. Make your content the same noise. And they do so with the best intentions from an SEO keyword optimization focus, but not realizing that what they think is working is just making their sites and everyone else's sites more and more expensive for information retrieval, even if they manage to get cited. Even if they do, it's not for the reason they think, and it's not the success signal they think it is. The real business of the next decade is in the entity core, not the links, not the JavaScript injections, not the hidden divs. And it's not the LLM's fault that the structural entropy or structural noise we are intentionally or unintentionally adding in is creating an untenable situation. There is no way you can backlink yourself into a clearer semantic signal. It is the elbow grease of cleaning up that noise. And VizX makes that process not just possible, but pretty fun. Well, that's it for me this week. As you know, VisX helps you create that topical vortex on your site, a clear signal with a logic map that LLMs love. It's available now, WordPress or HubSpot, and in a few weeks, we'll be opening up another accelerator course. Right now, those in the courses, in those groups, will be getting their hands on that log audit. We haven't decided the name yet for it. So the difference isn't more content. It's connected content with the lowest computational cost to LLMs. Go to Vizzex, VIZZEX.ai. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next week.